Hi there. Today we are going to be taking a look at Chapter 15 of a treatise on political economy by Jean-Baptiste Say and try to put it into more practical terms. Let's get started. So in the introduction of this chapter, we see a scenario in which a man creates a valuable product, but this product will never be appreciated if others can't pay for it. So what are the means by which they pay for his product? So the obvious answer to that question would be that they paid with money. But where does the money come from? That money comes from the value of the products that they created on their own. So in a sense, they pay with their own production. So when one produces, he opens the avenue for his own demand. You can only pay for things if you produce value yourself. So now that we've covered the basics, let's take the theory and apply it. Consider a baker who wants money for his product, not other people's products. And a farmer is willing to trade with him using money. So this is great, but how much can the farmer actually buy from him? The farmer's overall demand, or purchasing power, will depend completely on his production, or his crop yield. If he has a good yield that year, he'll have more money to spend, but if he has a bad yield, he'll have less to spend. So the conclusion to be drawn from this scenario is that a farmer having a good year is not only good for him, but it's advantageous to the rest of society because he will demand more of their products. Now, moving forward and applying what we've learned thus far, let's talk about overabundance. So there's two main factors that lead to overabundance. A, overproduction, which just means that people miscalculated how much they needed to produce and overshot. Or B would be the failure of a particular industry, which led to a decrease of overall demand. So looking at the example that we just talked about, if the farmer and the rest of the farmers in society have a bad year, then their demand will have an effect on the rest of society because people weren't planning for them to have a bad year. Therefore, those people will have made too many products and an overabundance will occur. Say then goes on to talk about non-producers. So let's talk about a priest. A priest produces nothing, yet he goes to the market and has money to spend on his robe or other things that he needs. But where does he get the money? He gets it from tax collectors. And for those unfamiliar, that bottom picture there is the tax collector from Disney's Robin Hood. So in a sense, the priest is using value created by others. So with the information we've learned thus far, Say draws four important conclusions. The first of which is that the more producers and the larger the product variety is, there is a more extensive market and there's more profit for the producers. However, it should be noted that this is only true for real production, not the forceful circulation that was mentioned earlier in the example with the priest. So the second conclusion that can be drawn is that naturally each individual has a vested interest in the prosperity of the rest of society. And this is because the success of one branch promotes the success of other branches, and vice versa. If one branch fails, that can have an effect on the other branches. And an example is that the U.S., and Say kind of depicted this as a very wise decision by them, the U.S. helped civilize the Savage Creek Indians. They kind of gave them the habits of production, and this made them capable of being their own producers and eventually being able to trade with the states. The third conclusion that can be drawn is that imports should not be discouraged, because foreign goods will naturally be paid for with either native products or currency that was acquired through the production in your home country. The fourth conclusion, and an argument often made, is that good governments encourage production, not consumption. And I think this is pretty obvious at this point in the presentation because we know that production leads to consumption. You cannot consume without first having produced. So our final thoughts here, and kind of just putting it all together, is that handsome profits will arise when production is abundant and when people are taking time to find ways to increase production. And on the other hand, stagnated production will lead to a decline in demand, which will lead to the value of the products made submerging below what it cost to produce them. And this will obviously lead to some hard times. Thank you.